What's happening, guys? This is James Blom with MMOHuts.com with a quick weekly recap for MMO news and announcements for the week ending January 13th, 2014. And our first bit of news for this week is about the recent open beta launch of Aura Kingdom. This is one of the largest for area games, in fact. During the course of the Founders Beta, Closed Beta, Stress Test, and now Open Beta, over 170,000 characters have been created, and players have logged in over 1 million hours in the game collectively. And as some of you may know, the two servers available were getting pretty full, so just a few days ago on the 10th, Area launched Chimera, the third server in the game, to help accommodate for the massive amounts of players in the game at one time. Unfortunately, at this time, they're not exactly able to transfer any characters or items over to the new server, but it should direct a mass of new players coming in over to the less crowded areas. So last week I mentioned the Repopulation going all the way, trying to reach their Kickstarter goals, and as of recently stretch goals. Well, the team did just that. They reached the stretch goal in their most recent campaign and also became greenlit on Steam. Not too bad for a campaign that started just over a week ago. The $60,000 stretch goal ensures the placement of the Rockerus mount, which is the game's first tame mount at launch, as opposed to vehicles, of course. The $70,000 stretch goal in their massive list of things to feature in the game is the adversarial camps, which is a spawn system that will add more variety and content to the game, somehow or the other. And seeing that they hit the goal with 156% funded at $78,000, they'll be working on adding in Points of Intrigue as the next stretch goal. Points of Intrigue is an extension to the engagement system, which pops up in random places infested by creatures or NPCs. These are points that players can capture, and the more complicated the point of intrigue, the better the rewards for capturing it. Kind of like how their Kickstarter is going. The more money they get, the better the reward for the player. Indirectly, of course. Next up, nearly a year and a half ago, Runescape launched player-owned ports that have allowed players to take full control of running their very own harbor by recruiting crew members and outfitting ships to explore the eastern lands. Well, now as of last week, that expansion is expanding. With the latest update, players get access to over 300 new voyages which can be made to the recently discovered Shield and Loop regions, as well as 3 new adventurers to recruit: the Trapper, the Architect, and the Chef. They've also added in several high-level pieces of equipment like the Reef Walker's Cape, the Leviathan Ring, and the Death Lotus Darts. That sounds interesting. There's quite a lot added to the game in this update, so check the links in the description below for a lot more details. Well, it looks like Infinite Crisis gained yet another villain from the Batman roster, and this time it's Atomic Poison Ivy, which, as you can imagine, is probably the most potent one, seeing that she's already mutated from the start. But in this case, her mutations and bond with the green helps her as the tricky tank she is, providing her with plenty of snares and illusions up her sleeve. Her passive grants her a shield that blocks damage if she avoids taking damage for at least 10 seconds. And if an enemy uses their basic attack against her while this shield is active, they receive the Toxic Growth effect, which enhances all of Ivy's damage dealing skills. She seems to be a great choice for mobile players that are into mind games but are still like getting up close and personal. She's cool and all, but I'm kinda ready to see some more non-Batman characters. It's starting to turn into Batman Crisis, or Infinite Batman, rather. On a similar note, but not really, Smite doesn't introduce a new god this past week, but instead takes away the Domination mode. Apparently Hi-Rez decided to remove it due to the lack of popularity, which I think is a good idea. If something doesn't work, then scrap it and swap it for something else. Hopefully this is what we see going on here. Taking out Domination mode allows them to add something fresh and new, perhaps. Anyway, speaking of swapping, they've also removed the Guardian Minotaurs and replaced them with Titans. At one end we have the Titan of Chaos, and at the other end we have the Titan of Order. According to their official press release, this change is the first step of an ongoing process, so definitely expect to see more changes like this. Things that are subtle, you know, not super drastic. They've also balanced out some gods and improved on their graphic models, along with adding a slightly altered camera angle that is set as the new default that grants you maximum visibility with the option to revert back to the traditional camera mode, of course. Decent sized update for Smite. It definitely looks like they're putting things into high gear for their launch on March 25th. Last week, Grinding Gear Games concluded Path of Exile's Race Season 5 with a 1-week race and dove right into patch 1.0.5. This latest patch includes some unique items the developers are anxious to see in builds to come. For example, Shackles of the Wretched are unique gloves that grant you brief immunity to the various elements like chilled, frozen, ignited, or shocked right after you've been inflicted by them. It's kind of weird, but kind of cool. There's also a new support gym called Enlighten that doesn't do much at first, but as you level it can really help you level up your other active gyms. They've also put out a prototype video that you see here for a new Summoner Fireball type skill they plan on introducing before the big 1.1 patch. And they're also excited to start testing and rolling out some PvP tournaments and even a PvP based league for an even more hardcore aspect to the game. So even though these new items, gyms, and leagues are way different than what we've seen in the past, there's no doubt it'll offer up some exciting builds and play options for their player base. Next up, it looks like GamesCampus has decided to shut down Legend of Edda Vengeance again. First time it was shut down, it was meant to be temporary, but this time it's for good. GamesCampus stated that hacking attempts, gold purchasing, and game crashing is what led to their decision to put her down. All of these things caused an unstable gaming experience that couldn't be taken care of financially. Kinda sucks that those sort of things can be bad enough to cause a game to actually shut down. But the good news is, GamesCampus is reimbursing players who have been active within the past 3 months. Otherwise, the servers will be no more towards the end of this month. Next up, Sony Online Entertainment celebrates a successful 2013 for PlanetSide 2 with a new What's Next video showcasing tons of PS2 accolades. This past year, there were over 6 million players worldwide with 94 million hours played in PlanetSide 2, 110 billion rounds were fired, with over 1 billion kills made. A lot of those were probably people killing me, but beyond that, the video implies they plan to top this past year with what's coming, like the new Battle Island Nexus and the official launch on the PS4. But along with that, John Smedley, president for SOE, has started discussing a new all-access pass that is account-wide. So if you decide to subscribe to any one game from SOE, you've got subscription privileges across all of their titles. Yet apparently it's still reasonable if you're only interested in one title. Hopefully, we'll know a little bit more about that in the near future. And while we're still talking SOE, the EverQuest Next Team put together a new dev diary for EQNext Landmark, showcasing some of the advanced tools in the game and how to make some really handy but still detailed elements. It's nice how a lot of these tools have been added in or kept based off the constant community feedback taking in consideration, while the devs live stream content small bits at a time. If you haven't already, be sure to check out their latest video here and you'll see just how useful and easy these tools are to work with. And last but not least, Lucent Heart relaunched its open beta this past Friday, January 10th. Previously published by Gamania, Lucent Heart has recently been picked up by Suba Games, who has been working pretty hard this past weekend trying to push the game's Steam Greenlight campaign, while at the same time trying to fix a few in-game issues. A full calendar of activities are in store for the open beta to launch period, including a race to win a fully decked out Alienware desktop for the player who reaches the highest level by the end of the week on January 17th. So if you're just finding out about this, you might be a few days behind, but they're also giving out prizes all the way through 10th place, so you still got plenty of chances. Anyway guys, that's about it for MMO news and announcements for this week. Be sure to check the links in the description below for more details on the news featured in this recap. Otherwise, head over to MMOHuts.com/news for even more MMO news. Feel free to discuss the news in the comments below, or head over to MMOHuts.com/forums. But until next time guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.